Good morning, Alexa. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm okay today.
Good. How you doing after? How was the last week been? I know last week we kind of had a pretty heavy conversation talking about your job. How's it been going?
It's going okay. I'm feeling okay, but I'm still overwhelmed and a little stressed out by just the lingering thoughts of not knowing if I want to stay at the job or transfer within the hospital because, like I said, I keep getting hurt and, enough is enough.
Exactly. I know we talked about a big issue at your job was getting hurt 2 times in the last year. So I know that had to be difficult.
Yeah.
You've been at your job how long now?
It's been about a year and 5 months.
Okay. And what do you do exactly at your job again?
So I'm a mental health associate. I pretty much do everything a nurse does, without giving the medications. I run groups with the kids, and I work primarily with the children in children's crisis. Once in a while, I'll work with the adults on the other floors, but AP2 is where the kids are, where I am. But yeah, so I run groups. I do individual sessions with them sometimes with the doctor, with the nurses. I do one to one sometimes if a kid is like really suicidal, but I'm hands on with them. So if there's an issue and we need to restrain a patient, I'm right there. And 12-hour shifts, 3 days a week. As a mental health associate, we're front line, like we're the first ones there. And, I don't want to talk bad about nursing in the psych world, but the techs take on a lot more than the nurses do. Like
Yeah.
they kind of hide behind the nurses station and worry about just giving the medications when we're like, okay, there's a patient freaking out right now and we don't have any support. Where is everyone?
Exactly.
So I feel like a lot of people are at in danger,
Yeah. And that's a lot to take on. And getting hurt like twice in the last year, that's a lot to take on as well. I'm sure a lot on your mental psyche. We actually talked a little bit last week about some of the thoughts that you were having. Um, your words were you felt like it's my fault or I should have done more about it. And at the very end of our session, we just slowly started touching on cognitive errors and how they can be more like exasperated thoughts, or irrational thought patterns that can actually make our anxiety worse. Um, so I had given you some homework last week that I see you brought. I see you got the folder. So we're going to go over that because I think it's very important. We talked about, kind of recognizing what those thoughts were so we could start working towards them. But first, I would like to talk about something you would like to discuss today. And we'll do our homework after that, but I want to kind of set a plan for today so we can go over what's going on in your head today.
Okay. I'm still definitely pondering on the thought of, if I should really stay or because this is the first time this happened. I got a pretty bad concussion and I was out for about a month and I was thinking I'm not going to go back there. There's no way because I had a little bit of a, not to be too dramatic, but like a PTSD kind of thing. Like it took me a little bit to go back into the room where I was punched and it just took a lot out of my own mental health. So, I was going to, you know, like I would just, I'm so used to taking work home with me. So this was hard on me. Just taking like the punch to the head and it wasn't meant for me at all. I was protecting a patient, doing what I had to do, and then the other patient, kind of hit me. But um that kind of deteriorated me a little bit. Like kind of lost motivation and became a little bit more anxious because I was like, okay, it's time to go to work now. Like the next time I went to work, like it's like I'm thinking it's going to happen again. And now, only about 8 months later, I'm here and now I hurt my wrist and my hand. And they're saying I might need surgery. So it's a little bit more serious this time. And I've already been out for a month, last Friday. So now it's like I'm still going to be out for all of October. I'm on modified duty. So it's just very stressful for me because I feel like I'm very good at what I do. I love the job. I love working with the kids. I hate to see myself go because we've kind of formed a family on that unit, but I just don't think I can do it anymore. For my own sanity,
Yeah.
like I really feel like I need to kind of free myself from it for a little bit. I mean, I'm still applying to jobs within the hospital that have to do with mental health and maybe psych screening and stuff like that in the ER, but I can't do hands-on stuff anymore. I mean, this is really the type of job that only a person should do for maybe a year and a half to 2 years. It's a lot for someone.
I totally understand. Yes, it's definitely a hard field, and I commend you for doing it. It's a hard job to take on. Um, so let me just make sure that I have this right. So you want to discuss your issue with your job and possibly transferring and kind of going and trying to figure out, should I stay or should I go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, that's definitely a challenge, and I look forward to working with that. So before we get started, let's just go over your homework from last week, just to go over and kind of finish what we were talking about, and then we'll start working on that.
Okay.
So I had asked you to go over the two thoughts that came to mind at the end of our session last week, and the first one was, I should have done more about it. I had asked you to go over kind of these cognitive distortions. Which one kind of came out to you, and why?
I think what stuck out to me the most was the should statements. Like telling myself, instead of looking at it in a negative way and blaming myself, kind of saying, okay, I could have done this instead, but you know what? I shouldn't really focus on that. I should do this instead. So kind of just, it is what it is. It happened, and I believe that things happen for a reason. So I can't go back and fix it now. So now I kind of got to look forward, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. What's another way to have reworded maybe I should have done more about it? Is there anything that you could kind of turn that around in a positive frame so it didn't seem so negative and like maybe more like you're blaming yourself?
All right. So instead of I'm sorry, I said I should have done
Should have
something
done
better.
something about it.
Okay. I mean, that's definitely a statement where I'm blaming myself. And there's no need to blame myself because I didn't punch myself in the head.
Do you feel like you could have avoided it?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I could have avoided it, but then one of the kids would have gotten hurt. And then the situation could have been even more worse. So I feel like, I mean, what I did was the best thing that could have been done. I think there would have been more people hurt if I didn't step in when I stepped in. So yeah, it's kind of hard to change that statement because I do feel like I should have done something differently, but I feel like we always feel like we have to do something differently once it's finished, because we always
Absolutely.
rethink our scenarios and like, all right, what could we have done differently?
Absolutely. No, I think that's definitely something that I'm glad that you saw, because oftentimes when we get in a situation like that, it's really easy to say, I should have done something different. I could have done something different. But taking a step back and trying to look at, what really actually happened instead of putting the blame on ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like you've had any other thoughts, maybe in general, about your job that were maybe negative that you kind of recognize just by looking at some of these different distortions, and something that you could kind of pinpoint, like, and talk about?
Um, I mean, I definitely think that my anxieties spring from things that I create myself. So, like when I get up, my normal routine is, I shower at night. I'd wake up. I get my scrubs ready and folded in the evening time prior so that everything's set up. So I could sleep in a little bit. So like 5:30 comes, I start getting dressed. That's when I start feeling anxious.
Okay.
And I feel like I want to change that, and I feel like the only way I can change that is changing the environment in which I work in. So I feel like that's my weakness right now, if that makes sense. Like, my weakness is really not knowing what I want, um, but knowing that in the end, what is really good for me would be to change the environment where I work.
Okay, great. All right, well, I'm going to have you keep this. This is yours. I want to make sure that you have this going forward. And when things kind of pop up and we start having some of more of those negative thoughts, maybe even just talking in general, I want to kind of go back to that and see what we can do to kind of challenge those thoughts and kind to make them a little bit more positive. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so this can go. This is yours. We'll move forward. I kind of want to kind of switch gears, but we're on the same topic. I want to talk about what you had brought to the surface as what you want to work on today, and that's really the stress of feeling like you need to leave your job and transferring somewhere else in the hospital. It feels like you have this kind of struggle in yourself that you don't want to leave. You know, it's a great job. You know, you really love what you do, but at the same time, it's really hard on your mental health. Okay. So what's going through your mind right now about thinking of getting another job?
Well, I've always thought I'm the type of person that doesn't do well with change. But I think I lie to myself when I say that, because like things change every day on a day-to-day basis, and like I'm always up for a new task. So I think right now in this moment, I feel anxious thinking about getting a new job because it's training all over again, and it's learning, and it's like I feel like I learn enough. I have my internship and I have school and like classes, twice a week, and it's like to get another job and have to learn all over again what to do is a little stressful to me. Absolutely. So in this moment right now, I'm feeling anxious about having to transfer.
Okay. Do you feel like if you stayed in the same hospital, do you feel like the training would be that much more just being in the same facility, or do you feel like what about leaving that facility? Is that a thought?
Like leaving the hospital altogether?
Yes.
It has been, but I know I'm not going to get nearly the amount of money I get paid at the hospital anywhere else.
Okay.
So that's the big issue. Like I need to be making the money I'm making now in order to save and get out of my house and stuff. So yes, I'm anxious about transferring, but I would be way more anxious and I think a mental mess if I stayed where I currently work.
Absolutely.
Right now I'm on modified duty, so I'm not on my unit, which is actually a breath of fresh air. I'm getting to meet people within the hospital that I've never seen before. Fresh faces. I'm seeing people in the ER. I've never seen people in the ER. So I'm kind of making myself think that maybe transferring is not going to be that bad because I've already been trained in mental health, and that's where I'm trying to get another job. So I already know everything. Maybe it won't be that bad.
Okay. Have you started looking yet?
Oh, yeah. I actually had an interview for an acute care specialist in the emergency room in PES, which is the emergency screening services. So I would be site screening. I would be following up with patients outpatient. I would be driving to their homes with the mobile response teams, making sure they're doing their outpatient programs, IOPs, and whatnot. And then being support for them when their loved ones are in the ER for their mental health. So I think the interview went really well. I actually wasn't nervous for the interview at all because I'm pretty good at interviewing, but I haven't heard anything yet.
Okay.
So there was 4 other people that they were choosing for this job. So it's not just me. I mean, I would have hoped they took a transfer within before taking someone fresh outside of the hospital, but sometimes the system works differently.
Okay. Any thought if you didn't get that position? How do you feel? Are there other positions that you could apply for? Is that the only position within the hospital that you could go?
There are other jobs, but I applied to this one because this was closest in relation to what I'm doing now, but with less hands-on with, the patients. I did apply to other jobs like, secretary jobs, or medical assistant and, you know, stuff where I'm still helping people, but I'm not I'm not nervous that I'm not going to get a job, but it's like I haven't really heard much or had any interviews set up for anything else. So it's like, all right, what's taking so long? So I'm kind of like nervous about time, but I think I'm happy overall that I'm getting out of where I was because I think a lot of my anxiety stemmed from the job where I was getting hurt. And I mean, it takes a lot out of a person.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I kind of want to go over something with you. It's called a behavioral decision worksheet. And I kind of want to go over this with you just to look at. So I'll explain this to you, and I'm going to actually have we're going to fill out one part of it, and then as a homework assignment, I'm going to have you actually finish this at home and bring this over with us next week.
Okay.
So we can review it. So this is a 4 boxed worksheet, if you would. And on the top here, it talks about there's pros and benefits and then costs or cons. So pro and cons, costs and benefits. And then on this column, it's going to be changing your current job, which is where you are and where you unfortunately got hurt 2 times already. So changing that current job, what would be the pros and what would be the cons of changing that job? And then staying the same, which let's say you don't get another job or you can't find something else. What would be the pros or the benefits of staying at that job currently and the cons? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of go over it, just so you can kind of see for yourself. Maybe you're not seeing maybe all the benefits of staying, or you're not seeing all the cons of actually changing the job. So we can kind of look at it and balance it to make sure that it seems like you're doing the best thing for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's stay with changing the job because we kind of talked about that today. Now I'm going to let you write because this is for you. So what do you think would be a pro or a benefit of actually changing the job that you're currently at now that you're on leave for?
So I think if I were to change my job, a benefit would be definitely a clearer mind. Like a clearer mindset.
Okay, that's a good one.
How many did you want?
Keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. The more the better, because this is for you to see yourself what
Right.
makes sense, to try to take a little bit of that anxiety away.
Okay. It's hard to think about things like when you're in the moment.
Yeah.
Especially when it has to do with yourself.
Absolutely. And that's normal. And like I said, you're going to take some of this home, so don't feel like you need to know everything tonight, everything right now. We'll finish this. I'll have you finish this and bring this back to me because sometimes things will pop up, and I really want you to get the most out of this exercise. So what's a con of changing your job? It could be what could be a cost of changing the current job that you're at?
Losing pay.
Okay.
Because if I lose pay, I won't be able to do some of the things that I currently can do now.
Okay.
I think another one would be, I think this is like cons, unfortunately, is easier for me because I feel like there's so many, I don't know. It's just easier.
Okay.
But I think losing or not being able to work with the current people I work with right now anymore.
So not being able to see them.
Yeah. So like coworkers, I mean, I am friendly with one of the girls. We're like really, really close. So I'm not worried about losing our relationship, but it's like kind of miss the close-knit family type of deal we had on the unit. So that's something that's definitely a con for changing it.
That's understandable. Any more for the pros, or you still kind of you had said you came in here kind of thinking like you want to change your job for the good, right?
I mean, I feel like I might have more time for self-care because I won't be so focused on my anxieties with having to go to that job.
Okay.
So
go ahead, write that down. It's a good one.
yeah, so
More self-care?
more, yeah.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. That was a great start. I don't want to feel like you have to do all this. I'm going to have you finish this so you have a little bit less pressure because I know on the spot trying to think of everything right now
Right.
can give you anxiety, I'm sure. So I'm going to have you finish this. Do you understand how to finish this? So you're going to go through the same thing you did with changing a job and you're going to talk about what would be a pro of staying where you are or a con. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to have you finish this, and next week this is actually where we're going to begin.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds good.
Fantastic. So we're nearing the end of our session, and I kind of just wanted to get a little bit of feedback so far from you. How do you feel like these sessions have been so far? You feel like they're beneficial to you? You feel like you're getting anything out of it? Is there anything I can do to make the experience better?
I definitely think they're beneficial for me because I can kind of just talk out the things that normally I think of by myself in my car. I tend to like bottle everything up and then eventually like I have a meltdown. So I feel like coming to you and having these sessions is actually beneficial because I'm able to talk it out and kind of, with these worksheets that helps too because I can kind of write down what I'm thinking and it's not just, I have to remember it. I can actually see that I wrote it. So I'll be like more positive about it and stuff.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. No, that's great. And again, I want to make sure that I get that feedback because this is for you, and if it's not working or if there's something I need to change or we need to change as a group, I want to make sure that we do that. So thank you for that. And thank you for opening up today and being vulnerable. I know these are tough conversations to have and it takes a lot just to get it out. So I appreciate it. I feel like you're making a great amount of progress. And I know these are tough decisions ahead. And I hope, with that homework sheet and some other things that we'll be going over next week, that we can help you kind of figure out your next path for your job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. It was great seeing you.
You too.